Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where the international break is finally over. Potentially the longest 2 weeks in history are finally done. Manchester United are back in action this weekend. Not the easiest match I've ever seen, away against Liverpool, but there seems to be this vibe in the fan base at the moment that if there's a time to play Liverpool, it's probably right here, right now, this weekend. So our challenge, of course, today is to come up with a starting 11 for Manchester United to take on this Liverpool team and hopefully secure all 3 points. Even this early in the season, it feels like a big game. It's always probably the biggest match that we'll play in a season, but it's a chance to close the gap. You know, if we beat Liverpool this weekend, we're 2 points behind them. Lose, and it's 8 points. So it is a big swing this weekend. It is a proper 6-pointer clash. If United can win this weekend, it's back-to-back Premier League wins and potentially a chance to really start building some momentum over the next month or so before the next international break. That's right, there's another one coming. So yes, that is a challenge for today, to build a starting 11 to win this particular football match. Before we do any of that, I want to hear from you guys in the chat. How are you all? Beef, do not challenge me, mate. I will close this stream right now just because you're here. Don't challenge me, mate. Hope you're well, my friend. Who else we got? We got Steve, we got Callum, we got another Steve. Real recognises Real. Good morning to you, my friend. Hope you're well. Hope you're well. How are we feeling about the clash? How are we feeling about it? We've had some pretty painful, traumatic experiences against Liverpool over the past few seasons. Last season, not quite as bad, to be fair. But like I said in that intro, it feels like a moment where if there's a time to play Liverpool and win, it's probably this weekend, or probably the weekend just before the international break. But you know what I mean? There's an opportunity there. This is a weakened Liverpool team. Of course, still they're very strong. We're talking about a weaker Liverpool who currently sits second and, you know, we're going very well. We're unbeaten for the first 5 matches in the league. But I think the whole time there's been that sort of underlying sense that something isn't quite right. Those first 5 games, I didn't feel. I watched all 5 games. I never felt that Liverpool were the better team in any of those first 5 games. And then the last 2 in the league, they have struggled and lost. And Liverpool are the crisis club at the moment. Every week there's a crisis club in the Premier League. This week, the last couple of weeks, it's been Liverpool. So it feels like a good opportunity to play them and to beat them. But can we? Will we? You know, Liverpool will be thinking it's a good time to play United because it's probably always a good time to play United. How are you guys feeling? Are we confident? Are we delusional? What are we thinking? Chad, good morning to you, my friend. I didn't even know it was you, by the way. I just saw the word hoodie and knew that it was going to be you. Why is your hoodie so dark? It does look very, like, there's pitch black and then there's this. It does look very dark on the camera for some reason. I'm pretty confident. My worry is midfield, obviously, and Dorgu and Shaw versus Salah. Yeah, I think there's some really interesting conversations to have today. Partly in terms of how Liverpool are going to set up. We know that they've got an incredible squad that only cost them about £700 billion. And they've got some good players that they can choose from. But also United have some really interesting little battles within the squad, which I think is always a good thing. I think it's always a healthy thing to have that competition. You know, is it going to be Mount or Cunha? Who's going to play in the back 3? Who's going to be on the right-hand side? Is there a change in dynamic in midfield potentially this week? This might be the week to do it. I really feel like there's a lot to discuss. I feel quite good about it, feeling optimistic. I love that. Liverpool not at the best, but it's a wounded Liverpool. Yeah, it's a Liverpool versus United game, so they usually lift their game. Also, it's away. We've been better at home this season. Yeah, the last 3 home games we've won, and we're also better against Arsenal at home as well. So yeah, I do agree with that. I do also feel that Liverpool, like you said, will raise their level for this game. And also, when you have a team like Liverpool who are wounded, which they clearly are, they've been poor the past few weeks, they tend to bounce back at some point, particularly when they've got so many good players. So there's a chance that that comes this weekend. As United, we need to make sure that doesn't happen. Play with no fear is the main thing. That will absolutely be one of the most important things for United. The mentality in this game, not really something that we can discuss too much here on the tactics board and move things into different places. But yeah, I think the mentality is a big one. Even if we were to concede, for example, go 1-0 down, it's about how you react to that. You've got to stay in the game. Perhaps something that United have struggled with in the past in the biggest matches. Hopefully we don't have that problem this time around. Liverpool have only had one result the same after 82 minutes this season, as in it's gone from a draw to a W one way or the other. It's insane. It's insane, Liverpool this season. Like, you've got to credit their mentality, their ability to keep grinding out those results in the first 5 matches of the season, but also when we're looking at 7 games in a row in the Premier League, which they realistically didn't deserve to win, then there's got to be some underlying problems. That isn't just a blip coming up here and there. There is something wrong with this Liverpool team, which we can discuss in this stream. And I will probably do a video on it as well tonight in terms of how United should approach the game. They went quite well for the Europa League last year. They got a good response. So we might do another one of those for this match, because I've watched a lot of Liverpool this season, mostly on a hate watch, which we love to do. And yeah, I've learned quite a bit about them. The good thing for us is Liverpool lack any balance. Their press is disjointed, and they are one of the worst transition defences in the league this year. With us spamming them all game, this is going to be a box-to-box game. This could be basketball-esque at times. Slot's an interesting manager, you know. It's a very different Liverpool team to what you faced a few years ago. I think tactically, it's one of the poorer Liverpool sides we've seen in the past decade. I keep making this comment, and I made it last season as well, and got a little bit of criticism for it. But I stand by it. I think last season were tactically the worst league winners that we've seen in quite a while. Obviously, they still deserve to win. They were the best team in the league by a mile. But I think they're far from perfect. I think there are so many areas where you can get at this Liverpool team that we probably should have beat them last season. And we know how bad we were. And I genuinely feel that we should have won that football match. They lost to the last 3-4-3 that they encountered too. Exactly. Love your content. Thank you very much. We need to draw the first half so we don't spend almost 70 minutes defending. Yeah, okay, I guess it's time to get into the conversation of the United starting 11. How do you approach the game? What sort of players do you need? If we cast our minds back to last year's 11 against Liverpool, potentially quite different to what we'll see this year. I believe we had De Ligt and Maguire both in the back three. Not sure that we'll see that this year. We had an Ugarte, Kobe Mainoo midfield double pivot. Like, that feels very unlikely right now. So we're going to go through the United 11 as always, and we are going to pick our 11. We're going to start off in goal. Where finally, for the first time this season, we're doing a tactical preview stream, and we do not even need to mention the goalkeeper in any capacity at all. Hopefully, unless Ruben Amorim has truly lost his marbles, hopefully, we now know who our number 1 is. It's Lemons, who had a really good game just before the international break. A very solid debut. Sort of did everything that you want him to do. Got himself a clean sheet. Build on that. Get him in the net. He's better than anything else that we've got. Put him in goal. Don't question it. Move forward from there. I assume we are all in agreement on that one. Right? I assume we're all in agreement. The bigger question marks come in the back three. And this is where we need to strike a balance, I think, with the conversation of, are we doing what we think Amorim will do, what Amorim should do, what we would do? We need to sort of try and find a little bit of a balance if we can. In terms of the back three, there are so many different conversations to have, so we're just going to sort of dive straight into it. Middle centre-back, we've got options. Maguire or De Ligt. I'm not sure why that just says Ligt, not De Ligt. I do apologise for that. I can't change it right now. Conversation to be had there. Who do you go for? I feel that a lot of you will probably already have your answer, but is there the opportunity to play both of them in the back three like we did last year? And as Steve had pointed out, we also had Lisandro Martinez in the back three last year, so a very different back three perhaps to what we'll see this time round. We got Lenny Yoro, who could play somewhere in the defence. Mazraoui, I believe, is expected to have a chance of playing from what I've seen. We haven't had Amorim's latest press conference yet, his updates on fitness, but the last I saw was that it looked like he might be alright and that he might be able to play this game. So hopefully he's available. But he's definitely an option for the back three if he is fit. Luke Shaw on the left-hand side, a player which divides opinion massively. But one thing you cannot look past if we're trying to build Amorim's 11 is the fact that he has started every single Premier League match this season, and Amorim does like a left-footed player if he can get one in the team. So we do have to consider him for the 11. Just looking through the rest of them, I don't think Aidan Heaven will play this game. I don't think Fredrickson would. Lisandro Martinez is still injured. Dalot can maybe come into the conversation, perhaps. Maybe as an idea. I know a lot of you guys like the idea of it. I do as well, so we can discuss it. Did I see David in the chat? I did. David, good morning to you, my friend. Wait, is it morning where you are? I can't remember. But regardless, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. And thank you very much, as always, for the gifted membership. Guys, remember, if you see a gifted membership or anything like that, spam some love hearts in the chat to show some love, because it's people like David and his just repeated iconic behaviour which really keeps the channel going. So David, thank you very much, my friend, and I hope you are well. What we got going on in the chat? Mazraoui is back, but maybe not match fit. Yeah, it would feel like a risky one to sort of throw him into if he's not 100%. It would feel like a bit of a gamble. Martinez will be available by Brighton. Is that next weekend, I think? I personally think we're going to leave it a little bit longer. I'm expecting maybe more late November, I think we might see him. I don't think we'll see him before then. I would like Yoro left centre-back, but Amorim loves a left-footed boy. He does. He does. We've often spoke about the idea of Yoro moving to the left-hand side in a back three. Potentially, if we just move these two out of the way, potentially going for a back three like this is something that we've discussed. We saw against Chelsea. De Ligt did a very nice job of sort of connecting into midfield. He's one of our more aggressive defenders. But do you want to completely drop Yoro? You know, if Amorim's likely to play a left footer, Shaw's the only option. Does that mean Yoro coming out of the team? Do we want to do that? We have seen it at times this season. The sort of direct pace and threat of that Liverpool team would make me want to have Yoro inside. But it also depends how you're going to approach this. If we're going to approach this in quite a defensive, passive manner, and let's say play in a 5-4-1, where you're dealing with a lot of crosses into the box, then you probably don't go for Yoro because that's not where his strength lies. You know, at that point, you probably do go for Maguire and De Ligt and those sorts of players. So I think the approach you want to take to the game massively affects who you want to play in your backline. I think the one that I would say is definite, De Ligt. He's got to play somewhere in our back three. Whether it's in the middle, left, unlikely, or the right-hand side, he can do that job. I think he's going to be in the back three somewhere. I also think, if we're predicting Ruben Amorim here, I think Luke Shaw will play. So the question is, sort of Yoro versus Maguire. Let's assume Mazraoui isn't match fit, so probably wouldn't start. It's unlikely that this is the game where we play Dallo here. It would be a weird one to do it for the first time from the start. So realistically, it's Yoro versus Maguire. Now, I don't want to take this to a poll because I know what the poll will say. It will say Yoro because he's the preferred player. What I want us to do is have a serious conversation about this in the chat, because it's not as simple as who's the better footballer or who do you like more or who's got more potential. That's irrelevant in this particular situation. It's about what approach you want to take to this game. If you want United to play on the front foot and to be aggressive and to be almost playing a little bit like we did Arsenal the first day of the season, then I'd be going for Yoro. He's got the extra athleticism, he's got the extra speed, he can play in a higher line. Lovely. If you want to play in a low block and defend a little bit deeper and perhaps play in transition, where Liverpool are really, really weak, by the way, United are quite good, that could make sense, then at that point you have to go for Harry Maguire because he is the better box defender and even with set pieces and stuff is more useful than what Lenny Yoro is. So it's about what approach you want to take to the game. And that is important. We had a conversation, was it during the international break or before? I can't remember. It's all been a bit of a blur. But a conversation about the importance of style. Does it matter how you win, particularly in the short term? Does it matter how you win, or is it just a case of find a way to get a result, find a way to get 3 points or a point away from home, which wouldn't be bad? Are you fussed about the style? You know, if we park the bus and win 1-0 and counter-attacking football, are you happy with that? Or do you need to see United on the front foot? Be interested to hear what you guys have to say on that in the chat once again. We've had that conversation a few times recently, but every time we get a slightly new audience, I like to hear the new opinions and the new views we've got on that conversation. Spam likes. Yes, please. That is the one thing you can spam here, the like button. Well, don't spam it yourself. Sort of everyone collectively press it once. Does that class as spam? I don't know. I'm not sure. But if you could press like, please and thank you, that'd be lovely. Maguire is just too slow. It's that simple. He was never quick, but he is now too slow. Yeah, I think that's fair. But does that matter if we're playing a deeper game? Does that matter? Start Maguire and De Ligt. Van Dijk's a threat from set pieces. Maguire did a good job on him last season. Maguire had a good game against Liverpool last year. Actually should have scored in the last minute to win the match. The thing you also get with Maguire is leadership and experience, which are important things in this sort of environment. Away at Anfield is never easy, never has been, never will be. So that is something to consider. I'm trying to think what I would go for. 9 times out of 10, across the course of a season, I'm going to say Euro. Because I want United to play a certain type of football, which is an aggressive football, a front-footed football. The team sort of in the ascendancy, asking questions of the opposition. That's what I always want from United. But in this sort of game, do we have to look at it a little bit differently and go, you know what, Liverpool are better than us, so perhaps we have to defend deep? At which point, you bring Maguire into the team. It's a tricky one. I'm not sure which way you go with it. Because if we flip it, Liverpool are wounded at the moment. You can get at Liverpool. There are weaknesses in the way that they play out from the back, in the way that they press, in their mid-block. There's a lot of weaknesses with Liverpool. Should you be after them? Should you be getting towards them and taking the game to them? In which case you probably go Euro. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. What I might now do is a poll. Now I've sort of made that comment that I wanted to make, or had that little discussion, what I might now do is get a poll in the chat so you guys can have your say. So basically, keep in mind everything that we just said. Everything that we just said. From pressing to playing deep to playing up from the back, Liverpool's approach, United's approach. Keep all of that in mind and then have a vote in the poll. The poll is very easy to use, by the way. You just go down in the chat, it pops up, press a button, bish bash bosh, the poll is there. You just click which one you want. It's free, it's easy. Lets me know your opinion. So why not do it? Why not do it? Away at Anfield, they have lost 3 in a row. Let's suck them in and play over them. Yeah, that would point towards Maguire. That would definitely point towards Maguire. Gakpo versus De Ligt, pace is an issue. The wing-back combos are really important in this system. Yeah, I mean, how much do you guys want to talk about Liverpool in this stream? Like I said, I do have a video lined up on sort of how United can hurt Liverpool in this match. How much do you want to discuss that now? Do you want to discuss that in this stream, or are you more interested in the United 11? Because, yeah, like I said, Liverpool got pressing issues. We can comment on that. Liverpool have got issues when they play out from the back. We can comment on that. They've got issues in the mid-block. Do you want to cover all of that today, or not so much? AJ, do you feel that Heaven is underused? No, but yes. Really useful answer from myself. In comparison to last season, yeah, he came into the club. He got a really good opportunity quite early on. He played a good amount of football and played pretty well. This season, pretty much non-existent. Played in the Carabao Cup, nothing else. So in that sense, he will feel that he's being underused because last year he was playing a lot. This year he's not. What's he done wrong? First of all, he hasn't necessarily done a lot wrong. We've had a more consistent backline this year because we've had a bit more luck early on with injuries, perhaps due to less matches. And yeah, we're playing less matches, right? We don't have the Carabao Cup. We're not in Europe or anything like that. So there is less need for rotation. So Heaven doesn't get his opportunity. When we first signed Heaven last January, I didn't think he was getting anywhere near the starting 11 for a long time. It was a shock to me when he was labelled as a first team signing. When we signed him, whatever day it was last January, if you told me by October he wasn't starting or hadn't started competitively for United yet, I'd have gone, yeah, okay. Like, it wouldn't have really fazed me too much because I wasn't expecting him to play such a big part. I would say this season, he's got the role that I expected last season. So individually, personally for him, it's absolutely a setback. He'll be disappointed. But I don't think it's a massive issue right now. I don't think it's a big issue. Sorry, guys. We just got a super chat from Beef. Beef, thank you very much. And I'm just trying to process what you've put. He said, I've buried my nan's bones at Anfield. Let's do this. Thank you very much for the super chat, Beef. Let's do this. I agree. Let's do this. I agree with that part for sure. Not so sure about the rest of it. Alright, the poll is going Lenny Yoro, and yeah, I'm not surprised. So Lenny Yoro comes into the team, Maguire dips out, De Ligt goes to the middle, Yoro goes to the right-hand side, bish, bash, bosh, nice and easy. That's a really interesting battle. Why can't I highlight De Ligt? Never mind. That's a really interesting battle between those two. Something to keep an eye on in this game. Next up, we're going to go wing backs, because I think the wide battle is really interesting in this match. Right-hand side could be Diogo Dalot. Could be Amadinho. Could be Mazraoui. Probably slightly unlikely, just because of fitness. Left side. Could be Dorgu. Could be Dorgu. Maybe Dalot, switching over to that side of the pitch. What would you guys be going for? Because we've got some interesting battles going on in this game. Liverpool's strengths for a lot of years have been the wide zones. This year it almost feels like a little bit of a weakness. A lot of talk about Salah on the ball not being Salah. I think I saw a stat that his shots per 90, his chances created per 90, pretty much everything has halved. He's almost half the player, half the involvement, half the impact of last year. Of course, still a ridiculously good player that can kill any team like that. You know, drop of a hat, he can absolutely ruin you. Very good footballer. We should still be scared of Salah. What's not being spoken about quite as much with Salah, though, is his weaknesses defensively. And when I say weaknesses defensively, I mean he doesn't defend. Now, you guys might remember there was a player called Marcus Rashford. The name may be familiar with you guys. And I seem to recall there was a spell where he wasn't scoring many goals and, you know, he was never the most defensively intense player. And the media were very, very keen to point it out. Very keen to give him absolute pelters every single week. Salah's doing the exact same thing right now. Not really contributing on the attacking front. Defensively, doesn't even try to defend too often at all. Yet the media seems very quiet. I don't know. Just something that I noticed. A little bit weird if you ask me. But anyway, it's probably something that you can target. I believe Cucurella for Chelsea before the international break said, we attacked Salah's side because we know that he doesn't defend. That's a crazy statement. To say that you literally targeted a certain player because you know he's not going to defend. Is that something that United can be looking at in this game? Plus, also, who is the right back? Is it going to be Connor Bradley? I'm not sure. Struggled a little bit with fitness so far this season, but he's a good solid player. Could it be Frimpong? Another one of the £7 billion army. Could it be Frimpong? If it was to be Frimpong, you'd think defensively, offensively for United, defensively for Liverpool, there's something that you can get at there because he's a good footballer, but I don't think he's ever been a right back in a back four, particularly with little protection in front of him. Is there something there that United could get at with the right combinations down this side? Is that something that we need to consider with our wing back? Is there an attacking option? Is this the time that we could go Ahmad over to that side to find something and explore that area a little bit more? Interested to hear what you think. Salah's drop-off may be Pogba's fault, to be fair. Yeah, that's actually a good point. Like, where's Pogba and all this? You know, it's an excellent point. I believe Maguire gives us more negatives than what he does positives. I think it depends on the type of match you're trying to play. I think there's definitely some matches where he has a lot to bring to the team. Others where, yeah, he certainly can be quite weak. I think we should go with Ahmad. His press against the opposition's fullback is useful. Yeah, and that's something else that we need to discuss in terms of the wide zones. Kirkesh was another one who came in for a lot of money and had started terribly this season. Terribly. I've seen him hooked in like the 35th minute. I can't think who it was against. He's had a really poor start to the season. Now again, definitely a good footballer. Very good actually. You know, wouldn't have been a bad thing for United to have signed him for the wing-back position. He'll come good at Liverpool. He absolutely will. Good player. Right now, struggling. A bit of a weakness in build-up for Liverpool. They sort of struggle to play out through him. I've seen a lot of people talking about the fact that he's quite predictable and almost telegraphs what he's going to do, so you can almost read him. Is that where you go for Ahmad to try and squeeze him and try and press him? Because naturally, Ahmad being a winger is a bit more aggressive in the press than what Diogo Dalot would be, for example. You've also got to consider the fact that I don't think Kirkes is the most amazing 1-versus-1 defender I've ever seen. He's not bad. You know, he's got good speed, he's got good tenacity and things like that, so he can always bite back and recover. But actually 1-versus-1, I've seen better. I think he's a player that you can get at. Do you play Ahmad? Do you play Ahmad? On the flip side of things, we have a manager who is quite pragmatic. We spoke earlier about potentially defending in a back five like we did last season. If you were to do that, you would not want Ahmad wing-back because you don't want Ahmad to spend 90 minutes here. So again, it depends on what sort of approach you're taking to the game. Right wing-back Ahmad, left wing-back Dorgu, says Ghost Kid. I think a lot of people will agree with you there. Kirkesh usually bombs forward, but most of the time he is part of the back three in possession. Yeah, I think from a Liverpool point of view, there's a case of misprofiling with Kirkesh at the moment. He's a bombing fullback, isn't he? He's someone who wants to fly forward. His deliveries into the box for Bournemouth last season were really high quality. Really good, some of them. And now this year he's asked to sort of almost tuck in alongside Van Dijk at times, sometimes go and invert into midfield. I think he's just sort of adapting to a new role, a new environment, a new set of instructions, and it's probably just taken longer than what Liverpool would want. I watched Slot's press conference and he is going to start his best 11. Gravenberch is not injured. Yes, I believe Alisson is the only one expected to be out, but they've got plenty of good goalkeeper depth. Frimpong and Kirkes both just aren't good defensively. Both are great going forward, but again, especially with Wirtz in there is no balance at all. Yeah, and I think, again, balance is the word. With Liverpool, they lack it. They lack it. Are we feeling these wing backs then? Is this what we're thinking? I'm assuming this is what you guys would go for. We always talk about trying to get an attacker at wing back where possible. Ahmad's the only real solution unless you want Mbumo. Left side, it's Dorgu or Dalot. And I think most people would go with Dorgu because a lot of people don't like Dalot. So I get the vibe that this is what you guys would go for. My question is, can you actually see Amorim doing this? Now, the cynic in me wants to say no. Wants to say that Amorim is pragmatic, defensive, passive, scared sometimes a little bit in the big games, so goes for a more defensive wing back. But, we did see right at the start of the season against Arsenal a very good United performance with Ahmad starting the game in this position. So could that be a sign that we could actually attack the game and we could get after them? Could anyone tell me who started wing back against Chelsea? Because that's sort of the last big game we played. And City, who was wing back in those games? I don't think it was Ahmad. Okay, so Steve's got an interesting point, and I would like to have the conversation. Let's bring this man back in. Steve is thinking Dalot left wing back for both build-up and the fact that defensively he is right-footed, which helps deal with the fact that Salah is left-footed. And the reason that helps is because as Salah comes onto his left, his stronger left, Dalot is inside onto his stronger right, where you would think he is stronger with the tackle. Sort of Steve's point there. I think Amorim will go for Dalot at wing back, but I would hope he goes for Ahmad. I think a lot of people will agree. He won't dare, but I just want it more the approach eyeing their weakness. Yeah, and that's the comment I always make about can we put the other team on the back foot and ask them questions rather than everyone always doing it to us. Liverpool may be an exception though because it is a tough game. He started with Mazraoui and Dorgu. Was that Chelsea and City or just Chelsea? I can't quite remember. Amorim is not going to play Ahmad at wing-back. Mazraoui started against Chelsea. Ahmad didn't start against Arsenal. I thought Ahmad did start against Arsenal. Have I lost my mind? Can someone fact-check that for me, please? I'm sure Ahmad started the first game of the season. Have I completely lost my marbles? And if I have, I do apologise. He might... Actually, it might have been Dalot. And it probably was Dalot. Can someone check that for me, please? What do we think on that Dalot conversation? It feels like one of those games. It feels like Dalot plays somewhere. You know, if my life depended on this and I had to pick my wing-backs, predicting what Amorim is going to go for, it would be those two. I think it's more in his nature. But he has been, like, unbelievably positive about Ahmad this season. Every time, like, he comes out the team just for 3 minutes, he's like, we missed Ahmad, we need Ahmad back. Like, every time he had the family issue the other week, and Amorim was like, we missed his dribbling. We've seen him play in the left 10, and Amorim was like, we missed him out wide. What do we think? Oh, Ahmad didn't start against Arsenal. Well, I do apologise then. I was sure that he did. Where have I got that from? No idea. Amorim doesn't really have many options. The team just doesn't have that kind of depth yet. What do we think then? I think it'll be Dorgu left. Dalot or Ahmad. You know what? We're going to put Ahmad in the team with the idea of getting at Liverpool, but we're going to accept the fact that it's likely to be Dalot in the back of our minds. Okay? That's what we're going to do. Midfield. Shall we? Casemiro. Bruno Fernandes. Let's do it that way. Ugarte. Kobe Mainu. Is there a conversation here anymore? Is there a conversation to have in this position anymore or not? Is there only two that the manager seems to like? We saw comments the other day that sort of in the post-season bust-up last year, Amorim seemingly had a go at Ugarte, which is a bit weird that we then didn't sign a midfielder. Because if you look at the midfield situation, in the summer we knew that sort of Casemiro wasn't really favoured. Amorim admitted to having to change his tactics to get him into the team. He had a bust-up with Ugarte, and he doesn't like Kobe in a double pivot. Plus, it's not exactly Bruno Fernandes's position. Feels a bit weird that we didn't sign a midfielder, if you ask me, but hey-ho, probably a conversation for a different day. This weekend, is there anything different here that we can do? Or is it just going to be Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes? If we go back to last season, I believe it looked more like this. It was Ugarte and Kobe Mainoo in the double pivot. Bruno Fernandes went further forward. And that game was flow state Bruno. He was magnificent that game. He was so good. Everything he touched it just looked easy to him. Football looked like, it weren't worth his time. It's too easy a sport. He was absolutely cooking. But this season he plays deeper. It's not going to be Kobe and Bruno. We'll put it like that. Not in this game. It won't be. Is this a game where Bruno goes further forward or not? Because we've got Mount and Cunha who can both play that role. What are we thinking? Wilcox and Ineos are kind of running the show in terms of signings, by the way. I have a very good source on that. Would not surprise me at all. Wouldn't surprise me at all. If we are more passive, I'm fine with Casemiro. But if we play like every game we played, then why not Ugarte? What would I do? I think this is where it's tough, right? Because I'm of the opinion, if we look a little bit further forward, I'm of the opinion that you've got to try and get Mount in your team. I just think he sort of really sets an example for us at the moment. On the ball, off the ball, I just think he's everything you need, particularly in this sort of game where, a bit of experience is handy. It's a difficult environment, difficult atmosphere, things like that. But also just you're playing high quality opposition. A player like Mount who can relieve pressure on the ball, can apply pressure off the ball, is a lovely player to have. So it feels like you try and get Mount in your team somewhere, but that forces Bruno deeper. If Mount plays, Bruno has to go deeper because it's not going to be both of them in a tens because there's no way we drop Šeško and Mbeumo. Let's do this. Let's take them all out for a second and let's sort of fill out the team around them. Šeško will play. United have become a team that are very reliant on the long ball from the goalkeeper up towards the striker. If we're doing that, we're not going to play Cunha against Van Dijk because he just won't have any luck in the air. And it's unlikely to be Xerxes just because he's out of favour at the moment. He's not really what we're looking for from our striker. So it will be Šeško. You also feel, you get the feeling, it will be Mbeumo. Especially if Dalot plays right wing back instead of Ahmad. So Mbeumo will play there. So it is those other three positions. Do you drop Mount and Cunha? For example, you could go Bruno. You could go, let's do it this way, Ugarte. And you could go Kobe. Let's flip it over. You could do that. You could defend him more of a 3-5-2. Bruno could drop a little bit deeper. Šeško and Mbeumo could go play as the front two. You could defend like this to stop United sort of getting overwhelmed in the middle of the park. That could be quite nice. I like it. But is it actually likely when the manager has made it somewhat clear he doesn't really like these two in his midfield at the best of times? And it means dropping Cunha, who cost us a lot of money, and a Mount, who's been one of our best players this season. So, what are we thinking? We need Mount in this game to support Dorgu and for control and pressure relief. The only problem I have with Mount, and you guys know that I love him, Steve mocks me for it, which is crazy. We've all seen him with Dalot. My problem when Mount comes into the team and we get these two down the left side, and to be fair, to an extent, it's the same when Bruno plays here as well, is I just don't see a player that's going to actually take someone on. Cunha really takes responsibility with his carrying, his driving, committing players. I'm not sure that these guys do it so much. Mount can carry the ball, Dorgu can carry the ball, but they don't do it in that same sort of like maverick, menacing way where the opposition genuinely look terrified. I think we lack a bit of attacking, spark and real good quality. Mount's not bad at all, by the way. Let's make that very clear. He can score goals. He can create chances. Of course he can. But if we are looking at those transitions, which are potentially big in this game, it's something that Liverpool has struggled with this season. You just think Cunha could be useful for that ball carrying. Or you think, I've lost him, here he is, Bruno could be useful if he could almost sort of drop deeper, pick up the ball, and then he's got that real next level of passing range to find Mbeumo and Sesko in behind. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Danny, good morning, mate. How are you? I would like Ugarte and Mainu, but with Bruno left 10, but I suspect it will be Ugarte and Bruno with Mount left 10. Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think it's worth a shot. Bruno really showed his worth when there is less defensive pressure. Yeah, we're talking about one of the best creative midfielders of all time, if you ask me. So to not play him at all in a forward position feels crazy. But I don't know that we can drop Mount at the moment. I don't mind the shout of an Ugarte-Bruno midfield. If we are talking about intensity, those are the two you go to, particularly against Szoboszlai, who's really nasty to play against, Gravenberch as well. I quite like the idea of those two in an Amorim world, if you know what I mean. I don't mind it. We got another super chat in the chat. Thank you very much. I just joined the stream, so I don't know if this has been covered. But what's the percentage chance that Dorgu and Dalot both start? I think that may happen with Ahmad coming on after 60 minutes. First of all, thank you very much for the super chat, my friend. Yeah, it's something that we were a little bit uncertain on. What we sort of ended up with was like, in our heads, we would like Ahmad right, Dorgu left. But if we had to predict what Amorim will do, then we would assume that Dalot will come into the team on the right-hand side. That's sort of where we settled on that front. That was sort of our opinion. Do you think they'll both start, I assume? Amorim loves Cunha, but that Japan/Korea trip is hard. Yeah, same for Casemiro as well. Dorgu end product as well as 1v1 ability is not good enough for that wing-back role. He lacks something in the final third, without a doubt. Without a doubt. The smash and grab of Cunha and Ahmad coming on, I think, will be on his agenda. See, that's a really good point, right? Let's imagine you start with... Let's call it this for a second, okay? Let's go like this. And you start the game with the idea of being compact but also intense. We know that Dalot and Dorgu athletically are our two best wing-backs. These two are the best at covering ground in midfield. Yoro and Shaw are probably our best channel defenders. So we've got a decent amount of speed, we've got a decent amount of bite, a decent amount of physicality out wide. Lovely. And we've got plenty of attacking threat. Cool. We looked at the bench though. Cunha on for Mount is a crazy sub to be able to make. I said it before the international break. Being able to make that change is crazy in terms of the quality that we've got. But as you say, if we want a goal, Ahmad on for Dalot is also a lovely sub. Or if we're protecting a lead, Ahmad for Mbeumo or for Sesko for fresh legs is also a really nice sub to be able to make. If you were protecting a lead, Casemiro could be useful late on if you collapse into more of a block. We know that Amorim likes to change one of his centre-backs. It wouldn't be surprising, again, if we were in front, to see Maguire come onto the pitch for someone like Yoro or Shaw to give us that extra physicality, the extra height, the extra aerial presence at the back. I think there's some subs which, depending on the starting 11, of course, there's some subs which almost feel quite obvious this weekend. Dorgu and Cunha haven't worked it out yet, in my honest opinion. No, I don't think they have quite clicked yet. I think there's several of our dynamics and pairings that haven't really got going just yet. I would still say it's quite early in the season. You know, again, Liverpool spent £900 billion, I think, this summer. And they're yet to get their players playing well together. They've actually resorted a lot of the time to playing sort of a core from last season. So I don't think we should be too critical of them. But yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, how those partnerships form between players. Makes more sense to start Mount as he has the legs and Cunha has the direct running to exploit tired legs in the second half. I mean, How do I do this? If we just do this real quick. If we look at that United team, it feels quite intense. You know, the running ability of these three. Let's move Boomer out. The running ability of these three is probably the best we've got. You know, I'm quite critical of Ugarte in the sense that I don't feel that he's a ground muncher. He doesn't cover large spaces. But in terms of covering small spaces, sort of quick bursts, these three are probably the sharpest that we've got, which makes a lot of sense. Like I said, Dorgu and Dallo, athleticism, speed, ability to get up and down the pitch, got it in abundance. These three work incredibly hard. Mount is one of the best defensive forwards you'll see. Wide defence, Yoro and Shaw. Aggression of De Ligt. You know, if you're thinking about going to Anfield and wanting to play a certain way, I quite like these lot. There is always an argument for experience and leadership, Casemiro and Maguire, but I think I would rather the slightly more nippy, mobile players rather than the slower, experienced ones. Thoughts? I think I'm going to fold and say Mount should start in the hope that we weren't behind when Cunha comes on. Yeah, that's fair. Pardon me, I do apologise. We need him to help the midfield when defending. That's the good thing about Mount, and we saw it against Sunderland before the international break. Like Bruno when he plays high, Mount can give us that extra number, and that can be really useful against Liverpool. If we get Liverpool back on now, what we often see from Liverpool is Szoboszlai, or it might be Wirtz. I think it'll be Szoboszlai this week. But they're often actually sort of more of a 4-2-4, which means one of Liverpool's weaknesses defensively is that they often defend with a midfield two, who have a lot of space around them. I feel like I've heard that somewhere before. Yeah. We could actually, potentially, not guaranteed, but potentially be the team that has the overload this week. If it was Mount or Bruno starting in the front three and then sort of dropping in, for once we could be the team with the extra man. Just saying. Worth considering because we don't see it very often. Particularly if you can imagine you can get your wing backs nice and high and sort of start pinning Liverpool back. And Boomer can come a bit inside and it sort of looks a bit more like a 3-5-2. Something to consider. I think experience is funny in some terms when talking about Casemiro because he makes daft decisions for a player with that experience, like the 2 yellows against 10-man Chelsea. Yeah, exactly. That's why, for me, he's sort of lost that credit a little bit of like, oh, we'll go Casemiro for his experience. His experience doesn't seem to help in some games. Plus, then when you've got that he lacks the mobility, gives the ball away a lot, for me, it's not the game that suits him. I don't think it's the game that suits him. At United, AJ, that's where you've heard it before. Thanks, Steve. Thank you. I knew I'd heard it somewhere. Wise United fan, good morning to you, my friend. I hope you're well. Personally, yeah, not bad at all, thank you. If you need to defend a lead, Casemiro for Šeško, Cunha for Mount would be a great shift in dynamic. Drop into a 3 in midfield and have a front 2 of Mbeumo and Cunha. I like that thinking. I like that a lot. When I first saw Casemiro for Šeško, I was like, what are you doing, mate? How defensive is that? But you're changing the system, the setup, the approach. I like that. I like that. Liverpool's problem is the same as ours under Ten Hag. Huge gaps in midfield. I noticed that against Palace. Slot's tactics. So last season I was quite critical, like I said. I said that it's the worst tactical winners we've seen in a while. I don't want to reduce it to the basics too much. Slots feels a little bit like Ten Hag, but with Van Dijk, Konate, last season Trent Alexander-Arnold, Ryan Gravenberch, Mo Salah. You know, picture this. Imagine 2 teams trying to play the exact same style of football. One's got Maguire and Lisandro Martinez, for example. The other's got Van Dijk and Konate. They're going to be able to execute a high line and things like that in quite a different way, aren't they? And long balls and everything. I'd like to see Šeško keeping on the shoulder of the last defender in and out of possession. So that's an interesting point. I mentioned earlier, we're quite direct, aren't we? We're not afraid of the long ball. We don't mind. Yeah, sure, we might take the goal kick short initially, but we're going to roll it back to the keeper and punt it. We do that sometimes. How do we feel about this little battle up here? Normally, 99.9% let's go 8. 99.8% of strikers in world football, I would say, have got no chance up against those two. Van Dijk he's ridiculously good in the air. He's a monster. And Konate ain't half bad either. Very good in the air. So I'd say you got no chance. But when you put a man in there who's 6'5", has a ridiculous leap, and already seems to have adapted to sort of the physicality of the league, do you just sort of think, maybe we might be able to get something from that? Could he sort of be the one that might actually get some change out of Van Dijk? And can we look for those flick-ons with Mbeumo? Can we? Especially if there's a world where you can get Mbeumo a little bit closer. So almost Mbeumo's on Van Dijk, so you don't even bother going long there because he's not going to win it. But you do go a bit more direct to Šeško on Konate. Now again, Konate's still very good in the air. But he's not Van Dijk. Not many people are. Is that a sort of avenue that we could look for? I'd be interested to hear what you think. Could we play up here and get numbers around this ball? This ball. Particularly if Frimpong was to play. I think it will be Bradley. But maybe. The Šeško and Mbeumo combo can be a lethal combo from the long ball and the hold-up play. I've said it a few times. I think Šeško's just been so impressive. So impressive. Even before the goals were coming. Of course, we still want a lot more from him. You know, I think his footwork, for example, you can sort his feet out a little bit quicker. Great, we need that. But he's doing well. He's doing well, the young man. You can still see Casemiro's class, though. Watch him. His mind is quality, and he does still exude that aura of, I've done everything. But you can see he's struggling now. Yeah, I think we've got to a point with Casemiro where it's a little bit hot or cold, right? On his day, the quality is very obvious. The experience is very obvious, and he's a very useful player for us. Other weeks, the game looks a bit too quick for him. And I think when the game gets too quick is when he starts to make sort of snappish decisions, reflex decisions almost. And that's when he seems to lunge in or give the ball away in a silly area or strangle Will Hughes or something, you know. That's the problem we've got at the moment. I'm hoping for something rare, back-to-back wins after the Sunderland game. It would be nice. We haven't yet done it in the last year. That's right, we haven't won back-to-back in a year in the Premier League. I've said it a few times though, the beauty of the start of the season is it doesn't take too much to get yourself back in contention, back in touch with those at the top. A win, we're 2 points off Liverpool. Results go our way, we probably get ourselves into the top 8, the top 7, maybe the top 6. Bit of momentum, maybe we can go from there. Sorry, I feel like I'm going to sneeze and I don't want to. Van Dijk, you don't win in the air. He slows down the attacker. But that's what I was saying about not going in the direction of Van Dijk. Could you almost put Mbeumo on him, almost as like a distraction, like a decoy, and try and isolate this battle and play on that second? So you go long this way, you play on the second that way, and the second this way, is what I was wondering. 3 home wins in a row, to be fair. Very true. And like I said, 3 p.m. kickoff wins in a row. The most important stat in football. There'll be parades at Anfield if we win back-to-back for the first time. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? It would be nice just to feel what it's like to win 2 games in a row in the Premier League. How we've fallen. AJ, do you think we should build from the back? De Ligt stepping into midfield, freeing up Bruno for a quick transition. Alex, good question. I like those sorts of questions. How should we approach the game? We've built a starting 11 that I think we've sort of just about agreed on. How about approach? We've mentioned the long ball. Should that be something that we rely on? Or should we be looking to play out from the back? We know the structure, as you've said. Sort of, De Ligt can go in here. Perhaps Ugarte drops in with him. Bruno could go a little bit higher. There's some serious threat there. If you can find a way through Liverpool's first line, you know, here, this sort of freeze frame, there's some serious threat there with United. But should we try it or not? Now, in terms of the way that Liverpool press, again, it's sort of a 4-2-4. And they like to have the extra player back here. We often speak about having a +1 on the last line, which means, let's say, let's move all of these lot out of the way. Get out of here. Get out of here. And let's swap these two. Let's say you've got 3 forwards. A team playing man-to-man would obviously have 3 at the back to match you. Liverpool being a team that likes a +1 means if you've got 3, they like to have 4. Of course, the simple maths that we always do is if Liverpool outnumber you over here, you can outnumber them over here, particularly if you use your goalkeeper. We know that Salah's a little bit light with his defensive work. Are there areas where United can play out from the back? Or, again, atmosphere, recognising the occasion. Is this one of those ones where you go long and you play off your second balls and you feed from there? What do we think? What do we think? Now, I would always say we shouldn't exclusively do one. We shouldn't always play short. We shouldn't always go long. Mix it up, a bit of variety. It might be a day for the long ball, unless we're really feeling ourselves technically and we feel that we can get out from the back. Because there is a weakness here. Down this side is something that you can get at. That there's an area there for United to be able to play. I also think there's room behind the Liverpool midfield. If the 2 jump, sort of to United's situational midfielder in De Ligt, is there a space there with these guys not wanting to come out towards? Possibly. We've seen before United sort of try and draw teams on and then go through quick. Is there that sort of ball where perhaps, just as an example, you start off with Le Monde, you go to De Ligt, you pop it back here. Is there a way to find that space in there for one of these guys? If Dorgu was to then go high, for example, could he sort of like lock Bradley in? Is there that potential to get on the ball and play quickly, sort of through from the goal kick? And we're still getting forward in the same speed. It's much more, it's a quick attack without playing long? Or nah? Or nah? This is my point on Sesko keeping the length. Liverpool will not be sure short or long, and the option is a get out of jail free card. Yeah, and that's the thing. We do always have that option. That's the other point of drawing in initially. If we set up short a few occasions and actually play short, Liverpool will press. Might open up the space to go in behind and get on that second ball, whether that be short or spinning. Something to consider. Long ball against Van Dijk and Konate. Yeah, normally not ideal. We've spoken about trying to isolate Konate potentially, possibly. Is there also an argument, right? Oh, that's Sesko, not the ball. On one of these goal kicks. We talk about Mbeumo often as sort of a wide target man. Is there something here on the long ball? Is there a world where United try and draw that Liverpool front four? Because this is one of the rare benefits of De Ligt going into midfield. What some teams like to do, let's put Liverpool in a 4-2-4. So back 4 here, 2 midfield. Szoboszlai comes up from midfield into the front 4. What some teams like to do to press United in our weird shape is they'll drop 2 forwards onto the 2 midfielders, De Ligt and Ugarte, and then they will put 2 wingers on up here. Now, they won't go literally touch tight because that would just be stupid. There's no reason to do it, right? Absolutely no reason to do it. But they'd sort of just sit here. So if the ball goes, you can jump. If the ball goes, you can jump. Lovely. But is there a long ball situation out here that we could play off of? By sort of drawing the winger a little bit higher, can we use the wing backs to our advantage against the fullbacks? And the same over here as well. Is there something in that? Now, I don't know, maybe second ball might be a little bit difficult with only Bruno initially in there. And if it goes wrong, there's space where Liverpool can hurt us, which is something to be a little bit cautious of, a little bit worried about. But is there something that we can get at there? Mount's good on the second ball. Dorgu's not bad in the air. Both of these two are good in the air. Both good on the second ball as well. There'd also be an argument for Cunha in this sort of game state and his carrying ability. Can we almost use the... I don't want to use the word aura. The threat and fear of Sesko. Teams know he's good in the air. Teams know we like to go long to him. Liverpool like a +1 at the back. What if they were so focused on defending Sesko in the air? Especially if we played long to him a couple of times early on. Is there that option to play sort of long out here and you get on the flick on? So as you play that ball long, Kirkesh comes racing out to win it. Can you knock into those spaces? Do we think that we can do that? Do we think that we can do that? I said they like their extra man at the back. That might be their weakness, though. Presence. Yeah, good word as well. The thumbnail has the starting lineup nailed. I can't remember what I put. So the only change we've got is we've predicted Dalot. And we've ended up going for Ugarte. But yeah, very close. Bournemouth targeted Kirkesh with the help of Semenyo. Yeah, as good as a player he is, there is a weakness defensively. The thing is, if we run past the front line, they won't track back, which leaves us with loads of space and overloads. See, I even wonder if there's that space in there outside of the Liverpool 2 in midfield. In that sort of position. That might be another reason why De Ligt could go into midfield to sort of bump Bruno one higher. Is there a little 3v2 in there? I know Mbeumo's not ideal in this position. He's far from a midfielder. We'd rather he was this way. But we do see in moments where he comes a little bit deeper. You can sort of imagine him sort of like pinning McAllister, holding him where he wants him, and then setting it backwards. We often talk about an up, back and through. You could imagine that sort of pass, and then the drop off in here, and then perhaps something longer, more direct. Something to think about. Šeško needs to be the gravitational pull, especially to isolate the left back, whomever it could be. Yeah, I think it's something, and that's why having a player like Šeško, who physically is so good, is really useful for the mind games. We were speaking about this ahead of Sunderland. If you start to do something successfully, the long ball, teams become aware of it and sort of over-prepare for it. They might drop an extra centre-back on him, but that's always going to free up a little bit of space somewhere else. Maybe that's something that we can look at in these sort of goal kick moments. United playing out from the back. So yes, sometimes moving the ball short, and can we play through, and can we overload in here? Lovely. But also, is there that long to the striker? Maybe. But also, is there that long out wide? Can we get into those battles out there? Maybe. I'm predicting that Xerxes will come on later to replace Šeško, whether he scores or not. I feel a bit sorry for Xerxes at the moment. Do you feel a bit sorry for him? Just looking through the bench that we got here, I just think United got so much from the bench. I'm weirdly confident about this match, which worries me because I was quite confident before City, and yeah, we got outplayed without them getting out of first gear, really. But I'm quite confident. I think there's areas you can get at Liverpool. And, you know, if it was this 11, it may not be, but if it was, we've said already, yeah, Xerxes is an option up front. Ahmad could come on at right wing back if we need a goal. Cunha from the bench is crazy depth. If we need to unlock a block, Cobby's lovely. If we need to defend the lead, Casemiro's height, Maguire as well. We've got some really nice players there that we could bring into the mix to seriously make an impact in this game, which is absolutely a strength to United. Of course, Liverpool have some as well. Wirtz, Robertson, Ekitike, Frimpong if he doesn't start. Jones is a good player as well. It's two decent squads going up against each other here. Maybe Šeško drifting wide for the long ball? Yeah, my only concern with that, I nearly suggested it a moment ago. My only concern with that is, do Liverpool sort of adjust to it too much? If Šeško went out here, I don't think the centre-backs would just let Bradley deal with him. I get the feeling someone like Konate would come and battle him. Maybe that's what we need to open up a space, though. Maybe. If Liverpool score first, then we have to park the bus before we go 3-0 down at half-time. I'm not sure I would take the approach quite that extreme, but something that we did mention earlier is the importance, the right mentality. And yeah, I think the response to setbacks will be important in this game. Composure, emotional intelligence, shall we say, will be important in this football match. How you react to setbacks. We concede one, okay, how do we respond? Or Liverpool start on top, okay, weather that storm, how do we respond? That's what we need to get better at always, every single week. We're quite poor at it. Anfield in particular, though, is a place where you've got to get it right. Now, I'm confident, because we've seen it before, I'm confident that this will be a game where the players are out and fighting. I think the intensity will be good. It is that response to setbacks that would concern me a little bit more. Slot says that United have started better than what the table suggests this season. We did lose the first few games, so I'm not so sure. I think the league table reflects where we should be. Sure, expected goals in certain games would have us a little bit higher, but I also think, we've created chances in losing positions against City, for example. I would say we're roughly where we should be with our start to the season. Of course, we've had some difficult fixtures. This is another one. But yeah, I think we're roughly where we should be. Maybe you put us on 11 points, which would have us as high as 7th. Possibly. Is the like button working? Guys, Steve's having a problem with his like button. He's trying to like the stream, but it won't work. Can you just press it for me and let me know if it works, please? Please and thank you. The game is probably won in the second half, to be honest. I don't trust our players to defend more than 45 minutes to a 1-goal lead. Yeah, I don't see a world where United win this game in the first half. I do see a world where United lose the game in the first half. So we've got to make sure that doesn't happen. The first half is about being sensible, away from home. Being tough to beat, that's very important. Being solid, being compact. Fighting, being intense, but also throwing punches yourself as well. I personally don't want United to come and park the bus. I want us to provide an attacking threat, to ask questions of those Liverpool weaknesses. I'd like us to try and expose that. I think we should try and get at that. But yeah, staying in the game is also very, very important. Second half is where you can win it. I think we go 1-up in the first 10 minutes. Yes, please. Yes, please. Scoring early changes the whole landscape of a football match. It changes absolutely everything. Confidence, the tactics required from there on. Score early, please. Please, 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 and thank you. So, on that front, score predictions and goal scorers. So what is the final score going to be? But also, who's going to grab the goals? Now, if you are a member of the channel, you will be able to predict goal scorers with your emojis. Not all of them, unfortunately. We are capped on how many we're allowed. But, yeah. Let me know what you think the score is going to be, and ideally, who's going to get the goals. Maybe even the order, if you want. Do we go 1-0 up and then concede and then go ahead, or do we go behind? Or is it 0-0? Let me know what you think. If Bruno does score, then it could come as a penalty. I'm all for a Bruno penalty, because the Liverpool tears would be glorious. Glorious. My dream is to finish 2-0 by half-time and a late third goal to kill the game. Alex, yes, please. Yes, please. 2-2. A draw wouldn't be a bad result. I think it would depend on the nature of the performance, sort of how happy we were. But realistically, if you offered a draw right now, it's not bad. We want more, but we could live with it. Callum says a 2-0 dub with goals from Šeško and Cunha. Steve says a 2-1 win with goals from Bruno and Maguire. Two of our big characters, our big leaders. Yes, please. Zerg's a little bit scared of this match, not going to lie. Understandable. They're a good team. Right. We've pointed out a lot of tactical weaknesses today. Just look at the individuals. We're talking about one of the best centre-backs to ever play the game. One of the best forwards to ever play the game. We're talking about one of the best midfielders in the league. We're talking about one of the best strikers in the league. Some of the most intense players in the league. League winners last year. 17 billion players on the bench. They're a good team. They're a good team. But there should be a little bit of fear. If you're not slightly fearful of Liverpool, then I worry that you've lost your mind. A draw would be a fantastic result in reality. Yeah, we would certainly take it. We couldn't complain too much. 1-1 with a Liverpool late goal, Mount in the first half. That would hurt. That would hurt. Would be happy with a performance and a draw. Yeah, exactly. I think we would take that. 3-1. Oh, I thought it was a 3-1 loss for a second, which is why I hesitated to read it. 3-1. So Van Dijk opens the scoring. Sag. But then Šeško double and Mbumo to finish it. Yes, please. 1-0 says Daniel with Casemiro with an 83rd minute winner heading it in from a corner. Yes, please. Maguire to replace Shaw late in the game. I could certainly see that happening. I just know this game is going to spite us after playing a good game. I hope not. I hope not. Son with the 3-0 win prediction. Šeško and Cunha and Mount all to score. The Mons with another clean sheet. That would be beautiful, by the way. Back-to-back clean sheets would be wonderful. I'm nervously confident. 2-1. United. Šeško, Mount. Bish, bash, bosh. I like it. Šeško opener and 2 Mbumo screamers. A draw would be great. 2-2. Ekitike, Vert, Šeško and Cunha. Lots of new players on the score sheet there for the two clubs. That would be a win for the recruitment team, I would say. United score through Bruno in the last quarter of an hour. Then Salah gets a penalty in the 104th minute when Michael Oliver gets his marching order from Slot. Yeah, we haven't mentioned the referee today. We're going to keep it that way. We'll just go, it's Michael Oliver, by the way. And actually what we'll do, I'm not going to say anything. We'll just... be careful about throwing the ball. Yeah. Might be a red card offence. Just be careful of that. 4-2 dub, yes please. Mbumo double. Šeško with a scream, a Casemiro late header. All for it. Cunha and Mbumo would do some goals. It would be a really nice one for Cunha to get his first. Honestly, any of the new signings to sort of kill Liverpool at Anfield would be amazing. I've got a feeling the forward three will click in this game. Who would your forward three be that are going to click? Is it the three that we've got today? Mount, Šeško and Mbumo? Or are you thinking Cunha? Don't remind me of the referee, please. I didn't say anything. I just mentioned his name and said certain people have to be careful about throwing a ball towards grass. Because, you know, sometimes that's a bit crazy and deserves a red card. Sometimes, not always. Šeško, Mount and Mbumo for sure. I like that front three. Anyway, is that everything? I think that was everything that I wanted to cover. I think that was everything that we wanted to talk about. We've spoken about the United 11. We've given some predictions. I'm not going to give my prediction. And the reason I'm not going to is because I realised last time we did a tactical preview, I forgot to do mine. I forgot to say who's going to score and what the score would be. Unless I'm getting my matches mixed up. But I think that was the last game. And we won and kept a clean sheet. So I am now of the opinion that as long as I don't predict, United will win every match and not concede another goal this season and will be glorious. Beautiful. So yes, we are going to wrap the stream up there. Thank you guys very much for watching. Future content? Good question. It's been dry, hasn't it? The international break has been a tough one. A long one. A boring one. Nothing to talk about with regards to United. We've done as good as we can. I think I will do a video previewing this match and where I would be looking to target the Liverpool weaknesses. I think I will do that video. In terms of streams, of course, we'll be back on Tuesday and then Friday and then Tuesday, Friday, always at 11 a.m. And we will be covering this match, of course. If we win, it'll be a late one, but I would really like to do the video on Sunday. It will be tough because of the kickoff time. And I don't like to upload too late because it just doesn't get views, to be honest. But I would like to try and upload late on Sunday, which I'm going to do because United are going to win. If we were somehow to drop points in this game, the video would be out Monday morning. So basically, I'll see you on Sunday because United are going to beat Liverpool. I do believe that. I cannot stand this system/formation. That's a fair point. How about you predict we lose? I can't predict at all. I am banned from predicting. Last season it worked, right? When I predicted Rashford would score a lot. Then I stopped and he scored a couple of games in a row. Just saying. I'm counting on another clean sheet by Le Mans. Yes, please. Yes, please. Is there anything else that I quickly want to read? Are we buying Anderson in the summer? I would like us to. AJ, we want last season's advertising. Alex, you are right. If you leave a like on the stream, I've heard a rumour that it boosts the chance of Manchester United winning this football match by 20%. Now, you cannot hold me to that. You cannot take me to court if it fails. But it's something that I've heard about. So, if you could please leave a like on the stream, it would be absolutely amazing. If you could also subscribe if you're new around here, or perhaps you're not even new around here, you just accidentally haven't subscribed, because I do that on different channels all the time. So if you could subscribe, that'd be great. Notifications on always helps. There is a Discord server linked in the description if you want to check that out. And we have the second channel, AJ Talks Tactics. I think that is everything that we needed to plug. I think. I think it is. So we're going to stop there. Thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you to everyone sitting there minding your own business. Everyone keeping the chat very, very active this morning. And also very positive, which is great ahead of such a big game. Thank you for the gifted memberships, the super chats, the renewal of memberships, and the all-round good vibes. And also anyone that liked and all of that stuff. Thank you guys very much. And I'll see you in the next one, which is going to be a video in the next couple of days. Maybe today, hopefully Sunday. And a stream on Tuesday.